Rittenhouse Square. Behind me is 2014 Delancey Place, home of Louis Winthorp and Billy Ray Valentine. In the movie Trading Places is a 1983 comedy starring Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, and Jamie Lee Curtis. At the beginning of the movie, Louis Winthorp, played by Dan Aykroyd, is doing pretty well. This is his house. He wakes up to his own butler serving him breakfast, giving him a shave. He walks down these very steps. It's around here where Louis Winthorp stands here. He's too good. He can't open up his limousine door. His butler has to do it for him. Here's a fun fact. If you want to buy the house from Trading Places, it's for sale. Coleman the butler walks down those steps and gets in the limousine, and he drives to the Duke and Duke building. At 135 South Broad Street stands the Wells Fargo building. In 1983, this was the Duke and Duke building. And when Dan Aykroyd goes to his first day of work, this is the shot you see when he walks into the building. The interior of the building was also used in the film. This is the lobby during the movie, and this is the bank lobby today. These are the doors to the Heritage Club, the very elite, prestigious club that Louis Winthorp and the Duke brothers belong to. The first time Billy Ray is in the movie, he scoots out from behind the steps here, and he tries to get some money off the Duke brothers. It's from this angle where one of the Duke brothers hits Eddie Murphy in the head with a newspaper, telling him to get out of here. The doorman pushes Eddie Murphy in that direction towards Rittenhouse Square. Billy Ray scoots down this way, right around here. He grabs a woman and tells her,
once you have a man with no legs, you never go back, baby.
Two police officers are standing at the end of this walkway here, and they see Eddie Murphy's character bothering a lady. It was in this location where the police officers stopped Eddie Murphy's character. They ask him if they know anything about a con man harassing people, and he says he knows nothing about it. He's blind and he has no legs. The police officers take off Billy Ray's sunglasses, and he says, I can see. And then they pick him up off the soapbox, and he stands up here in this very location, and he declares, I have legs. When the movie was filmed, there were 4 trees in this area. They are no longer there. What does remain is the Curtis building in the background, and those 2 planters on the columns there. When the police officers pick up Billy Ray, the blanket is folded. But when Billy Ray starts to walk away, the blanket is unfolded. Louis Winthorp walks out the doors of the Heritage Club, which is really the Curtis Institute of Music. Eddie Murphy's character is walking backwards like this, and this is where they meet. Even though Billy Ray tries to hand Louis back his briefcase, Louis calls for the police, and Billy Ray runs inside those doors. It is behind these doors where Eddie Murphy delivers my favorite line.
Is there a problem, officers?
Billy Ray is taken down these steps and escorted off to prison. This was the jail. It's located on the 1700 block of Spring Garden. It's not actually a jail now. It's the Community College of Philadelphia. Eddie Murphy gets bailed out of jail. He walks out these doors, walks down these steps, proceeds to tell the cops to be the guy with a nightstick, and he keeps on walking. When the Duke brothers informed Billy Ray they bailed him out of prison, you can see Masterman School in the background. The Duke brothers and Billy Ray go for a ride down Spring Garden Street. They offer him a job and they want to give him a house. Unfortunately for Lewis, the Duke brothers want to give Billy Ray his house, so they have him arrested. We're back at the jail again. This is where Mr. Beeks offers Ophelia $100 to make out with Dan Aykroyd when he gets out of jail. When Dan Aykroyd's character gets out of jail, this is where Jamie Lee Curtis is standing. She is looking at Spring Garden Street, waiting to get a signal from Mr. Beeks. And this is her view from that position. When Mr. Beeks gives Ophelia the signal, he's standing right next to this manhole cover. Lewis gets bailed out of prison by his fiancée. Walk down these steps here. Ophelia comes walking down here. She grabs Lewis by the face as she starts making out with him right in front of his fiancée. And this is where Ophelia and Lewis begin their great friendship. Dan Aykroyd says to Jamie Lee Curtis, "I will give you $50 if you pay for my taxi to take me home in Rittenhouse Square." And off they go. We are back at the house at the Lancey place. After being released from prison, the taxi lets Ophelia and Lewis out right around here. Lewis walks up these steps, and he notices he has a problem with his key. He knocks on the door and he asks Coleman to let him in. And Coleman pretends he doesn't know him. When you watch the movie, Jamie Lee Curtis is leaning on this railing. You can see this ball in the background. Dan Aykroyd walks up these steps and pounds on this door. Coleman tells Lewis to get off the steps or he's calling the cops. So Lewis leaves. Lewis takes Ophelia to the bank at 1 Penn Square, right next to the clothespin, near City Hall. It was right around this spot is where Dan Aykroyd got thrown out of the bank. When he gets thrown out of the bank, he lands about there. And this is the shot you get when Dan Aykroyd's on his knees and he sees Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis tells Dan Aykroyd, "Don't worry about the money you owe me. I'm tired. I'm getting out of here." It's somewhere around this spot where Dan Aykroyd informs Jamie Lee Curtis, "I have over $150,000 in this bank, and you won't help me because you're one of them. Something." And Jamie Lee Curtis calls him over. He gets off his knees, and she inspects his hands. This spot here, where Ophelia looks at Lewis's hand, and she knows he hasn't worked a day in his life. And I think she thinks he's telling the truth. She says, "I'm going to regret doing this," as she takes him back to her apartment, not that far from here. This is the front of Independence Hall at 5th and Chestnut Street. The second time Billy Ray and Lewis meet is right here in the middle of Chestnut Street. In 1983, this Belgian block street was actually asphalt. Chestnut Street was a two-way street. When Lewis is in the taxi cab, you actually see that little outhouse building in the movie. And this would be the view from the back of Billy Ray Valentine's limousine. In the opening credits of Trading Places, the Liberty Bell was not at this location. It was about 20 yards over, so the view's a little bit different. This is the 1200 block of South Street. This was the really, really bad section where Ophelia, the hooker, lived. And this is where her apartment. Ophelia, Jamie Lee Curtis, lived in this building. Somewhere in that building is apartment number 7. I don't know what happens behind that door, but Lewis recovers from a black eye and a really bad cold in about a 24-hour period. They start their walk right about where those balloons are, and if you look above those balloons, there's a rusty old pole with 2 lights attached to them. That is in the movie. The block has changed greatly over the past few years. That abandoned lot no longer exists. It is now a storefront. When Eddie Murphy reports to his first day at Duke and Duke, this is where Coleman parks the limousine. When Coleman is talking to Billy Ray about being himself for his first day of work, you see this sign in the background. It only says Duke and Duke, not Wells Fargo. After Lewis tries to plant drugs in Billy Ray's desk here in the Duke and Duke building, Billy Ray finds out about the Duke brothers' bet, so he chases Lewis, who is dressed like Santa Claus, out into Broad Street. A very drunk Lewis walks through that door. You can see that subway station in the background of this scene. He walks in front of this planter, and this is where Santa Claus drops his bottle of liquor. When Eddie Murphy's character leaves the building, he comes out this door and runs this way in the middle of Broad Street. He runs to the middle of the street. Right here, he sees a Santa Claus. When he pulls down Santa Claus's beard, it's actually local TV reporter Mike Strug. Here's a fun fact. That digital screen in the background of the Christmas party is actually the game board from Family Feud. Near the end of the movie, Billy Ray informs Lewis that the Duke brothers have it out for him. So they have this plan to buy some orange juice. Now, I sort of understand how commodity trading works, but I don't understand. Actually, I have no idea how commodities trading works, but this is where it's that escalator right there that Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy descend on their way to New York. And if you look, you can see where it says no animals, wheeled vehicles. That was in the movie. I'm probably standing in the exact location where Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis have a very inappropriate public display of affection. They say goodbye. And as they descend, Coleman looks at Ophelia and says, I could use a drink. Well, that's it. That's all the filming locations of Trading Places in Philadelphia. Hey, if you like this video, do me a favor. Smash like. And while you're at it, hit subscribe. If you want to join my Patreon, there's a link below in every video. And don't forget to check out my merch. 'Tis fire. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll sail with you later. Toodles!